Hey everyone, my name is Sean Jones. I am a 2016 Elliott School grad, and I am currently the communication specialist for the Wichita Public Library. And I'm honored to be one of the 2021s to watch for Elliott School's CommWeek this year. My presentation is called What Am I Doing? Tips for Beginning Your Communications Career. So we will just go ahead and dive into that. So what am I doing? Tips for beginning your communications career. This isn't the end-all be-all list of tips to begin your communications career. This is just a smorgasbord of things that I've kind of thought of over the years since I graduated that have really helped me with my communications career. So I'm a firm believer in every good presentation should start with a fun meme. So this is just, a typical work week for most people. And I put this as a joke because while some days my days look like this or I feel like this, I genuinely love my job and I love working in communications. It can be very hectic, but it's also so rewarding and so much fun, especially when you land in an organization that you truly believe in and love and admire, and it just makes the workday so much better. So this is just a joke. This isn't like my life, I promise. So to get started, I thought I would kind of go through the timeline of what my career has looked like since I was an Elliott School student. So I actually started with the city of Wichita at CityArts, which is a community arts center owned by the city, as an intern. And I'll talk more about that later in my presentation. But I started as kind of a communications intern for CityArts. They didn't really have a strong marketing presence, so I stepped in and helped out. My first job at CityArts was organizing a benefit auction for the scholarship program for students at CityArts. That turned into a part-time job doing communications and managing the digital arts studio. And then that turned into a full-time job doing programming and communications. And I was really fortunate because I got to start my career in a creative industry. And if you, with communications, you have to be creative. So it was really great because I got to use my creativity in a creative setting, and it was just a blast. I absolutely loved it. I was there for 3 years. I'm still friends with a lot of people that I worked with there, and it was just an amazing way to start my career. I graduated in 2016 with my open emphasis degree. These are just a few of the friends, the lifelong friends that I have that I met at the Elliott School. I was actually in Shelby's wedding a couple of months ago. She's the one with the sunflower on the top of her graduation cap. I graduated with an open emphasis degree, so I basically got to build my own degree. I was originally an IMC major, and then I decided to kind of explore a little bit more of the journalism route after I took the Flint Hills Media Project. So Amy DeVault was my muse, basically, and helped me really figure out how I could build my own degree based around my interests and skill sets. So graduated in 2016. I like to say that I took a little bit of a sabbatical from city government. I left CityArts in 2018 and had a very short stint in the nonprofit sector, working for Goodwill Industries of Kansas as the marketing coordinator. And this was a really unique opportunity because Goodwill is not like most nonprofits where you have to fundraise like crazy. Goodwill has a network of retail thrift stores. So while I got to figure out the marketing for some philanthropic ventures. I also got to learn retail marketing, which was a really cool thing that I never really thought I would ever learn. Like I said, that was a short-lived job because the opportunity of a lifetime presented itself, and I got a job as the communications specialist for the Wichita Public Library in February of 2019. This was sort of a dream job. I used to go to libraries all the time when I was little. In fact, they're kind of what shaped me to be the person I am today, because it was a place where you could explore and learn, and it was where I got to formulate my ideas and thoughts about the world. And libraries offer so many great resources to the community. I knew I wanted to be a part of a library someday. I always wanted to work for the library. I didn't go to school to be a librarian, but when a communications job opens in a library, you kind of have to just go for it, especially when you were around libraries all your life. So I've been working here for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years this upcoming February, and I'm having the time of my life. Working for the library is so great. I work with some magical, amazing people who are so smart and well-connected in the community, and it's just opened a bunch of opportunities for me, and I'm just really thankful for that. So, Amy DeVault said I need to give photo credit. So she took that graduation photo a couple of slides back. So thank you, Amy, for taking that wonderful keepsake from graduation day at the Elliott School. So my first tip is get involved at the Elliott School. There are so many opportunities to get involved at the Elliott School of Communications, one being the Studio B class that's producing these programs for CommWeek this week. But I'll talk about the two things that I did at the Elliott School that really helped me figure out how I wanted to maneuver my career. So the first one was the Flint Hills Media Project. And on this slide are a few of the magazine spreads and the stories I wrote during the Flint Hills Media Project. I took the project in 2015, and it was just such a great experience. I never really thought I would do something like this, and a lot of my friends that I met while working at the Sunflower, which I'll get to in a minute, had already taken the class, and they highly encouraged me to take it. And I had just switched over to the Elliott School, and Amy talked about it a lot during her classes. So I went ahead and signed up and took the class that summer, and it was completely life-changing. You got real world experience while being a college student. So you're expected to produce content and go out there and interview people and find stories and run social media, take photos. But you also had the guidance of your instructors, Amy DeVault and Kevin Hager, and a slew of other people who came back to help out with the project who had previously taken it. It was a magical experience. I got to network with some of the most amazing people that I'm still friends with today. And I got to know the faculty on a more personal level, which I thought was really cool. A lot of times college students just go to class, don't really get to know their faculty members, and then leave and graduate and never return. But I feel like every year it seems like I always want to come back and like help out at the Elliott School or do something because of experiences like the Flint Hills Media Project. My first year at the Elliott School, it was actually kind of one of the reasons I switched over to communications was I got a job as the ad manager for the Sunflower. So for a year, I ran the advertising department. And this was a really fun experience, not only because I met some of the best people who are still friends with today, but I got experience working with my peers in a way that wasn't a class project. We ran the student newspaper. So we called the shots, we made things happen. We did have a faculty advisor, but at the end of the day, it was us making the decisions. And I thought that was really cool. And being the ad manager for the Sunflower really got me out of my comfort zone. I'm an introvert, and I'm not good at like selling, ad space or something like that. I'd never done that before, but I had to do it to make money for the Sunflower. And it was actually a lot of fun because I found that with sales and selling, the newspaper, it was about making or developing relationships with people out in the community. And I found that a lot of people are very passionate about Wichita State and the newspaper and student media. So it was a lot of fun getting to know these great people in the community through ad sales. So these are just a few of the ads that I made for when I worked at the Sunflower. It was a really fun time. I only worked there for a year, but I came back after my year there and kind of hung out and worked on some other fun projects with the student newspaper. So tip number 2, I think something that has helped me land a really good job so soon after graduation is that I didn't focus in on one thing. I dabbled in a bunch of things. Now, I'm not knocking people who are really good at design or really good at videos or really good at copywriting who put all of their energy into learning the craft. In fact, more power to them. I think that's amazing. My mind isn't wired that way, though. First and foremost, I enjoy design. I love playing with typography and colors, and I spend my free time perusing magazine layouts, looking at billboards, and reworking really badly designed postcards that I receive in the mail. So visual communications is my first love. I'll always choose a design project to complete before any other task. After I took the Flint Hills Media Project at the Elliott School, I developed a love affair with writing. I love writing. When I worked on the Flint Hills Media Project, I wrote in different formats: short and long form magazine articles, social media posts, and photo captions are just a few of the things that we got to work on. I got to use adjectives and bring stories to life through words, and I was challenged to be succinct and tell a quick story with so many characters. It was a great challenge and something I practice still today. These are just a few examples of some of the work that I have done at the library. We have a newsletter on the left-hand side. We have a press release for when our branches were closed on November 21st for some tech updates. I have a Facebook cover for our big read, which is coming up shortly. And then I have, what's that? That's just a Facebook post for one of our new branches that we're building in Southeast Wichita. So learn a little bit about a lot of things. I talked about design and I talked about writing. The last thing is strategy. I also love to strategize. This is some work that I did for Goodwill Industries of Kansas when I was there. One of my projects was redesigning the color of the week marketing collateral for different platforms: in-store collateral, social media, website, all sorts of things. But in my opinion, strategy just goes beyond visuals. It's important to keep in mind your audience and what your end messages will be. You have to keep in mind your end user or users. So right now, this is a real world working example that I'm trying to think through actually as we speak. We're getting ready to close an old outdated branch library and relocate it to a new space. The communications plan for such a project is completely multifaceted. There's strategy used to inform the community, needs to incorporate a bunch of different tactics to be effective. So for a project like this, we have to have a lot of public relations, a lot of media relations, and a lot of internal communications to make sure our staff who answer reference questions knows what the project entails, what the timeline is, so they're able to effectively communicate that information to the community. Digital media will be a key element since we're opening a new location during a time where we can't have large gatherings. And knowing how to write, design, and strategize makes a daunting project like this a little bit easier because you can see the process through from start to finish. And that's something I really enjoy and something that I value with the skills that I learned at the Elliott School. I'm able to conceptualize what a plan should look like, might look like, and then carry it through and design a bunch of the elements that we need throughout. So writing social media posts, designing a poster, doing news interviews, writing a press release. I learned all of those skills while at the Elliott School, and I still carry those with me today. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer as we go along. So writing is important. This is my next tip. I know it seems like something you might not really think about when there are so many other creative jobs out there that require other skills, but trust me, I thought the same thing. Please, please, please remember this. Writing is so important. You'll do much more writing in your job in communications than you think you will. Write and write often. Being challenged to write in so many different ways and formats quickly when I did the Flint Hills Media Project really helped me in my career. It's not uncommon for my director to send me a report or presentation that needs to be edited or proofread before it goes before City Council. You have to be able to communicate to your end users in such a way that gets your message across while being succinct. And this is just a handful of the examples that I use for writing, that I do writing-wise in my job on a regular basis. We use a lot of surveys in the city because we want customer feedback. So we have to figure out how to write surveys that don't have leading questions and gets all the data gathered that we need to make an informed decision. And then once we have the results from the survey, we have to figure out how to digest it and present it to our end user, whether that be the public, our library board of directors, the city council, so we can make informed decisions based on what the community wants. I write a bunch of press releases. Any big event or story that we have at the library requires a press release, so I'm always writing press releases. Social media posts. We have a lot of different social media platforms here at the library. We do Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, and we just introduced our Reddit account, which has actually been really popular. So we write very differently for all 5 platforms. Strong internal communications is a must. I work with librarians and they need information. They need accurate information. They need it now. And so it's very important for me to make sure that I get the information to them before it goes out to the public so they're prepared and ready to go. Customer newsletters. We have an internal staff newsletter that we produce weekly. I do scripts, talking points, a ton of different reports, and then I help write website content. We actually have a great employee here who is our virtual branch manager who runs our website, and he is the tech wizard, and I let him run the website, but there are some times when I get to help him with copy for the website, so that's where I get to step in. I do not write code. I don't do HTML. I have no idea what any of that means, and I let him work his magic. This is just an example of a press release that we launched back in October for our Kansas Reads to Preschoolers program. And this is a press release I wrote for a different city department. So I sometimes ghostwrite press releases and reports, and you might do that sometime in your communications career. For example, I wrote this press release for the Metropolitan Area Planning Department for the city. They did a street diet survey to determine how we should reconfigure downtown streets to be more efficient. And so I wrote this for him. I put his name on it and all questions got to go to him, but the majority of the press release, except for the quote that he has in there, was written by me. I also write reports for our director that would go before city council. I help write memos for library board. I do the director's report for our library board of directors. So there's a ton of different back-end writing that I do. And making sure that you have a clear, concise, and polished writing skill that gets your message across to your end audience is critical. I'll wrap up the writing section with just these 2 different things. One unique project I got to do was submitting innovations to the Urban Libraries Council this year. They have a character count that you had to use, so I had to really tone down what I was writing to make sure that I told our library innovation story effectively while also staying within the means of what the character count was for the award submission. And I also write scripts. So right now we're getting ready to launch our Big Read kickoff here in January. And Lieutenant Governor Lynn Rogers is giving an introduction speech during our video. So I wrote this script for him and his team recorded it and sent it to me. And we have it in our video for our kickoff, which is on January 9th at 2:30 p.m. on KPTS Channel 8, so tune in. And I have a couple of questions that I'll answer real quick. Jane Lichtig asked, did you ever take a graphic design class in college? For IMC majors and those who are best at writing, where can we go to get more experience with Illustrator? So Illustrator is not my strong suit. I actually do a lot of my design in Photoshop and InDesign. I was very fortunate. I did not take a graphic design class in college. I was a yearbook and newspaper student in high school. So I've been using InDesign and Photoshop for years. There are some great tutorials through Adobe that you can use to learn how to do almost anything in InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop. I'm sure Premiere and other software that you can use. I'm sure most of you have some sort of subscription to the Adobe Creative Cloud. I highly recommend you utilizing the tools that they have there. They're great. I know my friend Shelby took some classes, I believe, her senior year of college, and I don't remember, I think it was in the art school, and she took some graphic design classes to kind of learn how to use some of those softwares as well. So you could look into taking some of those as well. That might be a fun like summer course you could take. So those are some different areas where you can get some more information on other softwares. Hannah asks, I'm happy to hear you got to work where you wanted. Is this the exact occupation you want? Actually, it is. I love working for the city government. I love working for the library. I'm exactly where I want to be right now. It's really interesting working for local government because you get to learn about so many different things and you get to learn how the city runs. And before I worked for the library, I was completely blown away by how complex running a library system is. And then we had the whole COVID-19 pandemic hit, and it just threw in wrenches left and right. So it's been a journey, and it's been really interesting to see how we've been able to adapt and respond to different things that are kind of out of our control right now. But yeah, I'm exactly where I want to be right now. I'm perfectly content. I would love to stay with the city. So who knows what the future holds, but yeah, as long as I'm doing what I'm doing right now, I'm happy. Let's see. Amber asked, what classes helped you write press releases and content? So I actually didn't take any of the PR classes at Wichita State or at the Elliott School. I learned how to write through Flint Hills. I also took ad copywriting with Madeline McCullough, and I learned a little bit of writing in like my IMC classes as well. But I definitely recommend taking as many PR writing classes as you can. The writing for mass audience class that everyone takes is super important. That was really interesting because you had to learn how to write in a journalistic fashion, but then I did the opposite when I got out of college and didn't go into journalism. I went to the dark side and do PR. So it's a little bit different, but you still utilize some of those same skills. Anita asks, what type of varied writing samples would you recommend a student include in their portfolio? I would say any writing examples that shows your diversity. So if you work for, like for me, for example, I would put social media posts, press releases, some website content. And then when I was applying for jobs soon after college, I would always include some of my content that I wrote for Flint Hills Media Project. So if you work for the Sunflower, use those articles that you've written. Just make sure that you show a diverse range of your writing skills, show that you're capable to write for different audiences and write in different styles. I think that's really important. Because communications is changing day by day. So I think it's important to kind of stay up with those. Joe asks, what advice would you give to someone who is approaching graduation? I would recommend you shadow people, ask to shadow people who are working in communications or who are working in the field that you want to go into. I would recommend, if you haven't done an internship yet, do an internship or two. I did a few in college. But yeah, interning, job shadowing, getting to know your faculty members and asking for their advice and their help in helping you find that first job. Utilize your resources. And I'll actually talk about networking here in a little bit. So I'll actually go back to the PowerPoint and continue. And I'll answer some questions in a little bit. All right, so this is my next tip. And this one might be a stretch, mostly because I'm a perfectionist and I expect a lot of myself, but it doesn't hurt to develop the mindset that good isn't good enough. It's sort of an unwritten mantra that we have at the library. We strive for excellence and, most important, accuracy. Keep this thought in the back of your mind. How could this project that I'm working on be better? These are just a few things I keep in mind while I work on my different projects. I'm constantly rereading and editing anything that I write. Anytime that I write a press release, I send it to City Hall, who then gives it out to the media. So they're always looking at my writing right after I'm done with it. Try something new. If something's not working, change it. Think through your strategy. I like being able to strategize a campaign because I can see it from start to finish, but I always make sure I run it past coworkers or other people, so I'm not missing anything, because while I know a little about the library, my coworkers are actually in the trenches making the library work. And so I always lean on them for advice and to figure out how the customer might perceive this or receive this information. So I always keep my coworkers in mind when I'm thinking of things so that they can help me come to a better solution. Don't be afraid to change course. I like to think of social media in this way. Social media changes a lot. So I always say, you know, don't be afraid. If something's not working, change it up. If a static image isn't working to get your message across, make a quick video and post it on social media. Try new things. And most importantly, go with your gut. I used to, and I still do, second guess a lot of things. But a lot of times if you just go with your gut knows what's right. So just kind of go with it. And if it happens to not be the right solution, take a step back, rework it, and move on. That's all you really can do. So the most important tip I have is don't like coffee or caffeine, just wait. I love coffee. And so this is a picture of what my desk typically looks like. I have my water bottle, something from Starbucks, and coffee that I made at the library. And I consume coffee all the time. It's a bit disgusting how much coffee I consume. So I need you to jot this down because it's super important. These are my favorite coffee orders at different coffee spots in Wichita. And if you haven't tried any of these, I highly recommend it. So at Dunkin' Donuts, I'm obsessed with their oat milk lattes. They just introduced these in October and they're amazing. So you should get an iced oat milk latte with caramel. It's like a milkshake. At Starbucks, it's the holiday season, so get a chestnut praline latte. If you aren't drinking those, you're doing yourself a great disservice. One of my favorite spots is Il Primo at Central and Woodlawn. They have a great caramel latte. And you should also get a breakfast burrito while you're there. It's the best. And finally, Sunflower Espresso. It's the coffee bus that I know comes on campus. You have to get the Jolene, which is a honey lavender latte. It is like the most perfect drink in the world. Anytime I live downtown, so anytime the coffee bus is at the farmer's market, I always run down and grab one because it's just so good and it makes me so happy. So you will be caffeinated when you work in communications. You're going to have to be, because it is a lot of work, but it is so rewarding and you get to try so many great different drinks. So bonus. All right. I'm not a video guy. I took Kevin Hager's introductory video course and that was about as far as I got. One time, my videographer here at the library asked me to step in for him while he was sick, because we needed to get some footage for a video that we were making, and it sucked. It was really bad. I tried to be super creative instead of just following his advice and setting it on a tripod and clicking record. We were able to use some of the footage that I filmed, but a lot of it had to get scrapped and he had to redo it when he got back. So don't pretend like you know it all. I know what I can and can't do, and I'm not afraid to ask for help. This is important. Remember this tip. You shouldn't be expected to know or do it all, and it's not a bad thing to ask for help. These are some of the videos that we make at the library. The one with the green screen on the second row far right is the one that I flubbed. So if you want to go back and watch it on the library's YouTube, during that portion, you'll see what I mean. But he knows video. He's an expert on video. He knows how to set up shots, how to make the sound work, what shots look right. I leave it up to him. I just tell him what I need, and he goes and works his magic. So long story short, don't be this pup. Know your limits, know what you're good at, and hone those skills. I'm an advocate for getting all of the experience you can get. It makes yourself more marketable, and it's important to try your hand at different tasks. It's also important to surround yourself with different personalities. Say yes to opportunities if they fit within the parameters of your skill sets, if you have the time, and if you have the want to take on the work. Just remember, don't overdo it. I am notorious for saying yes to projects even though I don't have the time to do them. Kind of because I have FOMO, but also I want to do things that are outside of my norm in my day job. So freelance work, and I use air quotes because I don't think of it as work. I think of it as just something fun that I get to do that's extra. These are some of the creative outlets that I have outside of work. So Roxy's downtown. Madeline actually helped me get this gig. I do their graphic design, so I get to design their posters and some social media posts and some other things. And it's strictly design work. I don't have to think about strategy or writing. I just get to design posters, and it's so much fun because it's relaxing for me. I recently partnered up with Vicki Klein, who has this organization called Nonprofit Go, and she works in grant writing. So she works with nonprofits, not only here in Wichita, but across the country, to help them find and write grants and work on their financial statements. And I met her through my former director at CityArts, and I'm working with her to do some marketing for other nonprofits throughout the country, which is really fun. And I get to do some design and marketing for Nonprofit Go, which is also really cool too. And then the Wichita Journalism Collaborative. So the Wichita Journalism Collaborative is, we're a partner through the Wichita Public Library, and it's basically a cohort of media partners and community partners here in Wichita who are looking at a solutions approach to journalism. And right now, the main focus is on the COVID-19 pandemic, especially right now, how it's affecting education and remote learning. So we are a partner at the Wichita Public Library, and our job is to do a lot of audience engagement. There's a fire truck going by. Sorry, I got distracted. So we do a lot of the community outreach for the collaborative. So it's really fun because I get to work with Amy DeVault. She is the project manager for the collaborative. So I get to work with one of my former mentors, now friend, from the Elliott School. And it's just so much fun working with her. I text and email her constantly throughout the day. I also get to work with Courtney Bankston, who is an Elliott School alum. She is the director of strategic initiatives at the Wichita Community Foundation. And she started her career at the foundation in communications. And she's just a great person to know in general, but she's also so smart with marketing and communications. And she's kind of the force behind the collaborative. So we get to work together on a lot of projects. And then I get to work with some of the really cool media partners, Tom Shine with KMUW, who is amazing, Joe Stump at the Active Age, Chris Green at the Journal through the Kansas Leadership Center, Rachel Summerfield at KSN. There's just so many great people that I get to work with. And even though I'm not in journalism, it's really fun to get to work in information sharing through the library. And so when the Journalism Collaborative started, we were really excited to get on board. So this is just an example, a few examples of some of the work that I've done through these organizations. We have some show posters on the left for some of the upcoming shows at Roxy's. We have a fun graphic for the Journalism Collaborative that I did for a misinformation campaign that we did on social. And then this is just a nonprofit tip that I worked on for Nonprofit Go. We did a social media post about diversifying your board of directors. And I thought it would be fun to play into the current Zoom situation that we find ourselves in, where we're always virtually logging into meetings and not actually meeting face to face. One thing I can't stress enough, always be learning. Take the time to watch webinars, go to conferences. I didn't know this until I started at the library, but there is a library marketing and communications conference that is held every November. And I went to it last year in St. Louis, and it was amazing because not only did I geek out with people who work at libraries, but I also got to geek out with people who do marketing, communications, and PR at libraries. It was amazing. And I was just in hog heaven. If you work for an organization, find similar organizations around the country and share ideas. Learn from others, learn from the industry experts, find online webinars. There are so many great free resources out there that you can find to learn about whatever it is you want to focus on. Find annual reports that show trends in marketing, social media communications, video production. Learn, take notes, and apply those skills. One of my favorite things about my job right now is each month we have a call with libraries from across North America. It's through the Urban Libraries Council, and it's basically a giant cohort of similar size library systems to ours throughout the country and larger. And I learn what other systems are doing and how they promote their services. And it's just a great way to debrief on different projects that we're all working on. In fact, some of my ideas that I have percolating for our grand opening for our new branch came from the communications director for the Calgary Public Library in Canada, which I think is pretty awesome. And to tie into that last point, network, which is everyone's favorite thing to do. And I say that with so much sarcasm. I'm an introvert. I am the worst at going up to some stranger and just talking. You can only ask people if they like bread so many times before you come across as a weirdo. But this is important. Get to know people in the communications world. There are some heavy hitters in Wichita who really understand the industry and are so good at what they do. Pick their brains, ask for a coffee or lunch meeting, share ideas. If it makes sense with your current job, collaborate on projects and build your cohort. Your faculty members know people. Amy knows a lot of the journalists. Madeline knows a lot of the people in advertising. They are very well connected. So if there's anyone that you want to meet in the communications world, I guarantee you, either they know that person or they know someone who knows that person, because we're in Wichita after all, and we're so connected in many ways. So build your cohort, talk to people, make yourself known, put yourself out there. It makes you stand out amongst the crowd, and it just gets you out there and learning. One thing that I have noticed is with communications, especially in Wichita, there are a lot of opportunities, but when a really good job opens up, almost everyone goes for it. So it's really important that you stand out. And this is my last tip. Ask. And so I want to tell a story really quick about how I got my job at CityArts. So I was taking Madeline's Intro to Integrated Marketing Communications class, and our final project was different ad campaigns for CityArts. So Kay Blair, who's the executive director, and Lindsay Banaka, who was the artistic director at the time, came to our class and just talked about what they wanted as far as ad campaigns go. And CityArts is a true community arts center where you have anyone from 2 years old to 80 years old taking classes. And so my group was assigned trying to get working adults to come take an art class after work. And so we did our presentation and it was great. And I remember Kay Blair saying, I am interested in hiring an intern to kind of help us get our marketing and communications in line and to just take it to the next level. And I emailed her after that class with my resume and some examples of my work. And I said, hey, you mentioned you wanted an intern. I want to be that intern. Here's my information. Let me know how to proceed. Or if you want to talk about it, let me know. I'm more than happy to set up a meeting. And a couple months later, I was sitting in John D'Angelo's office at Century 2, who at the time oversaw the Division of Arts and Cultural Services. And he hired me on as an intern, and I began working at CityArts. And then that is how I got my start with the city and in my communications career. And it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have just asked. The worst people can say is no, but it's very, very, very important to just ask. You never know what opportunities lie around the corner unless you ask. And that is my ending story of wisdom for you. So I have a few more questions that I would like to answer. Let's see. Matt asked, when looking at a job, leaning towards design, do you think it is more helpful to have a lot of previous work, even if the majority of it was just personal designs? Sure. There are some times where I design things just for fun, and if they turn out to be really good, I'll include it in like on my Behance profile. There are a lot of works that I've done that never got published or used, but I liked them, so I include them in my portfolio. Any opportunity that you have to design, go for it. And try to really vary it up a little bit. Maybe design an ad here or there, or design a poster because they're drastically different in what you're trying to communicate. But yeah, I would definitely use some of your personal designs. If you're doing a portfolio before you graduate, I would run it past a couple of your instructors just to kind of get their feedback before you start throwing it out into the community. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Drew asked, what class would you suggest still taking just for the good skills you learn, even if you aren't a communications major? That is a good question. I think a lot of the introductory classes are really great. I took, and Amy listed them out so I don't forget, visual technologies, which is a really good class if you want to do design, because it teaches you how to take information, mostly words, and figure out how to make those words work with graphics. And then you learn how to lay things out in a proper way. So you learn about hierarchy and rules of third with photography. So that's a really good class if you want to do design. News and info design was a class that I took. I don't know if it's still offered, but it was really good because we really focused in on how to design for newspapers and magazines and other publications. And we got to look at tons of different publications all across the world. And we had a lot of really fun, in-depth projects that we had to make for that class. Writing for mass audience is really good. I took it from Madeline, and we had to write so many different things. We had to write different articles. I remember we had to write an obituary, which I'd never written before, and it was so much fun. That's morbid. It was fun to write an obituary. Don't quote me on that. But it was really interesting and really helpful because it was a different way that you had to think about writing, and you had to write in a bunch of different ways. I did take Kevin Hager's intro to video production class, which was fun. Like I said, I'm not a video person, but it took me out of my comfort zone. So it really depends on what area of communication you want to focus on. Any of the introductory classes are great. Ad copywriting is really good for more advanced writing for ad campaigns or promotions, stuff like that. What do you do to take precautions to not overwork yourself? That's really good. And that's something I am still working on. I work at a library, so I'm around books all the time, but I hardly read, and I am making a conscientious effort to read more. So when I get home from work, before I go to bed, I try to read at least an hour, just so I can make my mind rest and take me to a different place, and I don't have to think about work for a while. Currently reading In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrook. It's about the whale ship Essex. If you need a good book, it's really good. What else do I do? I like to spend time with friends and family. And since it's really hard to interact with friends right now, we do a lot of FaceTimes. And I like to binge watch shows on Netflix. I always go back to the same shows, but I like to just watch different things and, try to relax as best I can. So those are some of the things so I don't overwork myself. I also really try to manage my time as best I can. So when I get to work each day, I always make a plan of action for what my day should look like. Never goes that way, but at least I have that plan and I can knock stuff off my to-do list as I'm able. And I try to make sure that I'm not overworking myself after work with extracurricular projects or freelance work. So I try to really restrict the hours that I work outside of my day job. What are some tips on what to do to make yourself stand out for those jobs lots of people want? That's a really good question too. These are all amazing questions. I'm not sure. I think one thing that really helped me with the library is I saw the position on Facebook, and I emailed then director Cynthia Berner, and I said, "Hey, I'm interested in this job. I met you a couple of times when I worked at CityArts. Could I come in and just talk to you about the position?" Because the person who was in the position before me didn't stay very long, so I wanted to know, like, what do you want this position to look like? What are you after? Like, what are you looking for? So I sat down with her and my supervisor, and we had a really good conversation about what the job entailed. And then I interviewed for the job. And I think kind of adding that step in, I wouldn't recommend it for all jobs, but just kind of knowing what the history of that position was and trying to figure out what they wanted. So I didn't waste their time. I didn't waste my time for going after something I didn't really fit with what I wanted to do, really helped. Also, I think just having a really good, strongly designed and succinct resume, highlighting all of the important things that you've done in your career or in college. One thing that I think really helped me too was a lot of people knew what the Flint Hills Media Project was. And there are a lot of people who took that class who know that if you've either taken that class or have gotten a communications degree at the Elliott School of Communication, you mean business. So I think just having the Elliott School attached to your education background is really important. What are some tips to stand out on your resume and cover letter? Just for cover letter, I like to make it more personal. I like to, so like when I applied for the library, I believe my cover letter talked about how I grew up with libraries. I kind of told, a more personal story through my cover letter. And then I talked about how I got my degree in communications and how I look forward to the opportunity to see how my background in communications and marketing could play a role in an organization and an institution that I trust and respect, the public library. So kind of personalizing your cover letter a little bit, where you tell a story about what you're good at and how you could benefit the organization, I think is really good. Same thing with your resume. Keep your resume pretty succinct. Try not to go over one page. I'm not an expert on resumes, so anytime that like when I applied for jobs, I always had someone look at my resume and offer feedback. Some of the former faculty members that I worked with at the Elliott School. So I would just do that. I'm not giving a really good answer on that one because I'm not entirely sure what the magic potion is for that, but yeah. And that is all I have. If anyone's interested in contacting me, there's my contact info. You can email me at the library. I also have my cell phone number if you want to call. I don't normally give that out, but you're communications folk, you're trustworthy. Feel free to reach out whenever and follow the library. We have a great website full of wonderful resources. We're getting ready to kick off our Big Read Wichita program, which is a giant community reading program where we choose one book and we build programming based around it. This year, we're reading Circe by Madeline Miller, which is an amazing book about the Greek goddess Circe from Homer's Odyssey. And it's basically her story. And we have a gambit of great programs based around that. So you'll see it all over library social media and all of our partner organizations as well. But give that a quick follow and, read with us. That's our tagline. I really enjoyed this presentation and I've enjoyed answering your questions. And I wish you all the best of luck in your communication endeavors. Kudos to all of you, honestly, for surviving this year. I know a lot of you have been doing virtual learning and remote learning, and I don't know how you've done it. I'm an in-person. I need to actually be in the class to learn. So good job to all of you. You are the true MVPs this year. And feel free to reach out if you need anything. You know where to find me. And I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of your CommWeek.